When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This is London. London calling in the home, overseas and European services.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Achtung Millwall. Broadcasting from beautiful South Bermondsey, it's the #1 Millwall podcast.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to another edition of Achtung Millwall. Can you believe it? I'm knocking these shows out like there's no tomorrow, aren't I? I've become giddy with excitement at the prospect of the 26-27 season, dear listeners, to the extent that not only have I bought myself a QPR Carabao Cup first round ticket next week, but also breaking the habit of an experience of a lifetime for tomorrow's Saturday's friendly, not tomorrow, I'm recording this Thursday, Saturday's friendly at the Den with Royal Antwerp of Belgium. Get me going to friendly matches. So I was just looking and just thinking about the whole concept of foreign friendlies and Millwall. We do have quite an extensive history, actually, of playing friendly games versus foreign opposition, much more so in recent years, in truth, than perhaps traditionally in the past. But then we are all, you, me and everyone listening to this show, wherever you may be, part of the Ryanair EasyJet generation or whatever the local low-cost airline is in your part of the world. There will be similar kind of enterprises. Certainly with the advent of the modern cheap air flight tickets, the low-cost airlines, travel to and from Europe generally from here has become much more normalised, hasn't it? Dear listeners, we all have nipped over to, Spain, for example, for a quick wham bam, thank you, man, kind of weekend. You know what I'm talking about, kids, don't you? So, yeah, we're part of that generation. And for us, we just do regard foreign opposition very much as a normal thing now at the Den. It wasn't always so. But I asked AI, Google AI, Gemini, to list me a whole series of every foreign opponent we've played since the early 1990s. After that, I'm depending on good old Richard Lindsay's book for my info. Now, the thing I've always found with AI generally is it's very, very good and very useful if you're compiling a podcast. That's a tip for nothing. I give you tips for nothing on this show, don't I? But you've got to be careful with it, listeners, because it does create some odd kind of, moments where you think, hang on, the computer is not functioning as it should. A bit like Eva Howell in 2001. It hasn't tried to kill me yet, but it comes up with things that you think that's not right, can't be right. Anyway, I'm just looking down the list of recent opponents. Obviously, we've got Royal Antwerp tomorrow at the Den. Saturday at the Den. What am I talking about? I keep thinking it's Friday. On Saturday at the Den, and I shall be there, as I said. Interesting club. I'm going to save my profile of Royal Antwerp to the game itself on Saturday. But I thought I'd just run through the list of some of the highlights of some of the opponents we've had in the past. So I've asked Gemini to list me all of the foreign opponents we've had since 1991, and I've gone into it myself. By hand, so to speak, after that. FC Andorra and SCD Eldense, of course, very recently at the Pinatar Arena in Murcia. I think the Eldense was actually played at their ground, and that wasn't the Pinatar Arena. So this is what I mean about AI not always being 100% accurate. You can't entirely trust it. It's a bit like the wayward mate that you might have that knows it all, but when he's had a pint or two, doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. Real Murcia in 2024, again at the Pinatar Arena. Google tells me, or Gemini, I should say, tells me. Real Sociedad, Royal Society in 2019 at the Den. I don't remember that game. Do you, listeners? I didn't go to it, so that might be a big part of the reason why I don't remember it. Granada, these are all Spanish opponents. They've listed them country by country. Granada at the Marbella Football Centre. Again, that would have been one of the Spanish training trips, but before the advent of allowing fans to get to the games. This was under the old regime. much more enlightened thinking now at the club, and all the better for it. Having fans over, it seems to have gone. I've not heard of any trouble out there or any problems. That this was always a great fear, wasn't it, of the previous regime, that somehow Millwall fans would descend on the Spanish training centre, get lashed up out their nuts and kick off. So far, as far as I'm aware, you tell me different, if you know different, perhaps. But it's been trouble-free out there, which I think is a big tribute to those fans. Now, here's a game I can't remember at all. Real Vallecano, La Liga club, aren't they? Vallecano, as is Real Sociedad. That was played at the Den in 2013. Do you remember that one, listeners? Paul Robinson testimonial. Gone out of my head, if so. And one that I'm not sure is correct. You tell me. Getafe, in 2018, played in La Línea de la Concepción in Spain. Now, La Línea, is that not the area near the border with Gibraltar? Or am I up a gum tree? Correct me, my Spanish geography is maybe a little bit hazy on that, but I thought La Línea was near to Gibraltar, which seems quite a high-profile place to play a Millwall game. But anyway, it must have gone off okay, because there was no kind of diplomatic incidents as a result of it. So that was in 2018, Getafe. Now, here's a game it must have been a training camp match. German opponents now. In 2012, Eintracht Frankfurt, big name, played at a series of games played in Austria. This one at the Kufstein Arena in Kufstein, Austria, pre-season tour match, Gemini tells me. As well as in 2018, Fortuna Düsseldorf at the Paul Janes Stadium in Düsseldorf. Don't remember those. I would have thought maybe they weren't made big things of so that people didn't travel. I don't know. Because they would have been favourite destinations to get out to, wouldn't they? A weekend in Frankfurt or Düsseldorf on the very, very excellent German beers would have been a major attraction. 2023, VfL Bochum, again an Austrian camp game in the Stadtstadion Saalfelden. Don't remember that. Not aware of it. And Karlsruhe SC Sports Club in Varsay, Austria. That was in 2012. Some Dutch opponents here in recent times. AZ Alkmaar played in Alkmaar. So Gemini tells me in 2022. RKC Waalwijk. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing these Dutch names correctly. Not good on my Dutch. That was played in Waalwijk in 2004, apparently. Sparta Rotterdam at the Het Kasteel Rotterdam 2010, and Dordrecht in 2016, and Cambuur of Leeuwarden in the Netherlands in 2018. A whole series then it lists of Republic of Ireland and Northern Irish trips. This is something that's gone out the window. We used to have a regular pre-season trip to the Republic, particularly the Dublin area. There's games here against Dundalk 1992, Cove Ramblers, in 92, Bohemians, Dalymount Park, Shelbourne, Tolka Park, 93, and 2014. Apparently we played Shamrock, a few Rovers as well there. Shelbourne in 93 and 2004 at Tolka Park. And then Shamrock Rovers 2002 and 2012. St Patrick's Athletic, is that not Richard Sadley's old club, St Pat's? I don't know. Derry City at the Brandywell. That seems a high-profile place to play a Millwall game, doesn't it? I have actually been to Derry, London, Derry. I'm not going to get involved in the debate there, listeners. And I'm amazed if we played there. Don't remember it, do you? 2002. Was that part of the peace process, any Irish listeners? I don't know. Anyway, Gemini alleges that we played Derry City at the Brandywell in Derry / London, Derry, Northern Ireland, whatever you want. I'll make no comment on that, listeners. I'm keeping it. I've got enough going on in my life to get involved in that debate. Waterford, Bray Wanderers, 2008. Athlone, 2008. Portadown, Glenavon in Lurgan, 2011. And now, obviously, we've got Portuguese opponents in 2025. Estoril Praia, Portimonense in 2013. Farense in 2023. And the Belgian opponents we're mentioning, the Royal Antwerp, of course, that's Saturday's game. Union Saint-Gilloise apparently played them in Brussels in 2016. A lot of these games must have been kept under highly secret wraps. Lommel in 2010, SV Ried. That was played as an Austrian game. Belgian side played in Austria, apparently. One game really leaps out at me. This was another Austrian pre-season. We played Sigma Olomouc. Don't know where they're from, but I do know where Maccabi Tel Aviv are from, listeners. Played in 2012. Gemini tells me. I have not heard of this fixture before. At the Sportplatz Bad Hering in Austria as part of the pre-season tour. Maccabi Tel Aviv, that would be quite a controversial fixture now, rightly or wrongly, wouldn't it, listeners? There we go. So those are the ones that Gemini have come up with. Do help me, or offer any illumination that you can at any of those fixtures, because some of them have got past me completely. Obviously, the main foreign opposition we've played, leaving aside Ferencváros, which was no friendly, was it? That was in the UEFA Cup. That was a competitive match. But the main friendly opposition in my life has been Sporting Lisbon, of course, on the opening night of the Den in 1993. I got a very up its arse report here from the Independent. No surprise there. A bloke called Ian Ridley has written this very disdainful, staring down his nose kind of report of the game. Millwall 1, Sporting Lisbon 2. Let them all come down to the Den, he writes. This is from the Independent on August the 5th, 1993. Let them all come down the Den, D-A-H-N, he says. Ooh, ho, 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 how very funny, Ian. And they duly did last night, he says, singing the same old song but with a different meaning, since Millwall moved back a few hundred yards from the Den in Cobbler Lane to the new one at Senegal Fields. Don't hear it called Senegal Fields anymore, do you? A good crowd of 17,887 in the All-Seater Stadium witnessed the leader of the Labour Party, John Smith, open the New London Stadium. That was its original name, wasn't it? The New London Stadium. That soon went out the window. I've never liked the New Den. I think just the Den now, isn't it? I don't think anyone really ever refers to it anything else. Millwall took on Bobby Robson's Sporting Club. An often ill-tempered match. It was the first half, particularly. It was played like it was early rounds of the UEFA competition, crunching tackles. John Kerr famously took the lead for the Lions in the 16th minute, but Jorge Cadete, he went on to play for Celtic, I believe. I remember from looking at the match day programme afterwards, they also featured a young Luis Figo in there on the bench. Can't remember if Figo actually took the field, but it must have been the highlight of his career if he did, mustn't it? The Lions of Lisbon, of course, winning the game 4 minutes from time with a Polish striker, Andrzej Juskowiak, snatching the winner. Blah, blah, blah. Football's acid house, says Ian Ridley, has become its mansion house. Oh, how witty. The details tell of an opulence unusual in South East London. Who do you think he is, this bloke? There'll be 32 executive boxes, a 600-seat restaurant, 58 places to buy food, brackets, wholemeal bread for the hot dogs. Oh, how funny. 80 television monitors around the concourses and 350 toilets. Blah, 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 blah. It's all a short walk but a far cry from the former fencing and forbidding atmosphere of malice. Quote, teams hate coming to the Den, wrote Eamon Dunphy in his diary of a professional footballer, only a game. He detailed the dingy back streets, the dungeon of an away dressing room and the bumpy pitch. I think we've still got a bit of that, listeners. I really hope we still have something of that quality. It may change once the area gets revitalised with the new Bermondsey development, when or if that ever happens. For all the doubts and the details yet to be completed, the first impressions of the stadium were favourable, says Ian Ridley. Millwall will have to work on the intimidation even of the old ground. Last night's noise was a good start, but the new stadium at least retains football as its focal activity with an uninterrupted view and no athletics track to distance action. I really like the new Den. I've said it before. I shall say it again to you now, listeners. I think that... I think sometimes we romanticise Coldblow Lane. It wasn't the atmospheric place that everyone loves to think of it as when it had a few thousand people in there. It could get that when the spark on the pitch or off the pitch generated the action. But I really do think that the Den, Zampa Road, John Berylson Way now, captures that essence. I think it's a pretty good stadium. It's a theatre of football, and I think sometimes we take our atmosphere for granted somewhat. So I like the Den, new Den. I'm going to call it that for once, so you know what I mean. So there we are. That was a 1-2 loss on opening night, August 1993. I remember well. For some reason, I left it late getting a ticket for that game. I used to live around the corner. And I managed to squeeze myself in the lower tier right at the very end. The only time I've ever been down there, actually. I just about managed to get a ticket on the night. I don't know why I left it so late. Maybe I naively thought it wouldn't sell out. It nearly did. Another game that I did go to, I picked out one or two friendlies from the past, pre-1993. I went to this game. This was at Coldblow Lane. It's the only time I ever went into the old executive lounge, as was at Coldblow Lane, which was up behind the seating stand on the side there, Hunsdon Road, I think that backed onto. And I went in there. It had a kind of like a downbeat pub quality in there, but I do remember the carpet had lions woven into its material. Very impressed I was. Millwall 1, Servette of Geneva 3. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge bid farewell to British football in style last night, says the Daily Mirror in the match report. It's only a couple of paragraphs. The West German goal kings scored once and created two others as Swiss First Division side Servette cruised to this friendly victory. Rummenigge, 33, is retiring at the end of this season after a glittering career that has included 95 caps for the Germans and 2 World Cup finals. By the way, Dean Horrocks pulled a consolation goal back for the Lions. I was there for this game, as I say. Only time I've ever been at the Den drinking, because you could go in the bar and you could look out the window and watch the game back then. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, great name for football commentators. German names lend themselves particularly well to David Coleman's voice. Rummenigge. Move along. We've got some other. We had a spate of foreign tours. We've got. This is an odd one, actually. I've picked this one out. I can find no reference to this anywhere other than in Richard Lindsay's book, and that is August 21st, 1984. Millwall 3, United Arab Emirates 1. The UAE national side. We played them a pre-season game. Played at Harlow. What an unprepossessing location for such a game. And we followed it up, or the day before, actually, August the 20th, played a Malaysian 11, also at Harlow. That was a 2-2 draw for the Lions. How about that? And then the UAE, the day after, which we won 3-1. Swedish tours. We used to have a thing going on tours of foreign lands. Swedish tour in 1978. No reports on any of these games, and some of the clubs I seriously haven't heard of. IK Mora, a 1-0 win. Västerås, a 3-0 win. Hofors, IAK 3-0, and Kranfors, a 1-1 draw. That was the 1978 pre-season Swedish tour. I was at this game at Malmo, 0-1, Mill 0, Malmo 1. That was the Gordon Borland benefit match. I think a couple of thousand people turned out, including me. It wasn't a very good game. It's quite a cold night from memory. And it was a bit of a drab and dreary game, in truth. I remember the programme that told you that Malmo's official name was Malmo FF, which in the Swedish pronunciation was if, apparently. There's little details that stick in your mind after all these years. I've never forgotten it. A Dutch tour. How about this? Who wouldn't love a Dutch tour? Listening to these words. Dutch tour in 1970, ahead of the 70-71 season. Vitesse Arnhem 3-0. Blauw-Wit, that's blue-white, isn't it? 4-0. And Vitesse in the return fixture, 3-1 win for the Lions at the Den. 1968, a Dutch tour. Go ahead of Deventer, 2-0, and Sparta Rotterdam. Can you imagine the joy that will be spread if we went to a pre-season game in Rotterdam? I can imagine it, can't you? Some unusual fixtures as you delve back into the more distant past. We played the Italian Olympic side, the Italian Olympic 11. That was ahead of the Mexico Olympics. We played their 11 at the Den, 1968. And that was a 1-0 win for the Lions. German games in the early 60s, Duisburg in 1962, 3. A loss 2-1. And Koblenz, a stuffing there. Millwall 1, Koblenz 5. Game against Banik Ostrava. Some great names. I used to love the foreign names when I was a kid. all these mysterious places behind the Iron Curtain of Czechoslovakia. Millwall 3, Baník Ostrava 5 at the Den. That was played in 1957. A Festival of Britain game, 1951. Millwall 2, RC Racing Club, Anderlecht. That was part of the Festival of Britain, which was a post-war cultural and all done on the soundbag. It's like a festival of culture, music, architecture, all sorts of stuff. If you go to the South Bank now, perhaps you go to the theatre there. Sometimes I do, listeners, I'll confess to you. Mrs. Hunt organises it for the most part, but I will go. But there's the Skylon restaurant there, which is part of the National Theatre complex, if memory serves. The Skylon was a spaceship kind of structure put up there as part of a kind of a boost for the country after the end of the Second World War in the period of austerity. So they had a series of football matches played, one of which was Millwall beating Anderlecht 2-1 at the Den. Here's a good fixture for all you fans of the game out there. 1949, April 1949. Millwall 3, Glasgow Celtic 2. That was a benefit match for Elijah Moore, who was one of the founding fathers of our football club on the Isle of Dogs. I believe, from memory serves, Elijah was both responsible for forming the ground at North Greenwich when we were thrown out of the athletic ground in the 1890s, and he helped physically create the ground at North Greenwich, the one where the arches are on the DLR stage, Millwall Park. And then secondly, again physically, pretty much with others, but he found and developed the site that became Coldblow Lane. A huge figure, groundsman, major figure, Elijah Moore, and they played a benefit game for him against Celtic. You couldn't do that now, could you, sadly? I think security would be, disproportionately high. But in the post-war period, I think everyone had had enough of, hate and war. And 3-2 win for the Lions over Celtic, 1949. A couple of final reports before I close on this theme. My favourite ever result, which was Millwall Athletic 9, the German Football Association. That would have been the Kaisersreich, wouldn't it? 1896, September the 3rd. Millwall put 9 past the German national team. And there's a wonderful offhand style to the match report for this game, listeners. You have to read this with an imaginary dinner jacket on at your club in St James's or somewhere, like the Drones Club, where Sherlock Holmes will go. You've got to read it in that style. This is from the Morning Leader of London, Friday the 4th of September, 1896. Headline is Germans at Millwall. That's the headline. And it goes straight into it. Imagine it in a very offhand tone of voice. I'll try and do my best. I'm no actor. To make the punishment fit the crime, the German Association ought to be made to look at their own football. But, dear listener, we must be gentle with intelligent foreigners in our land. The Millwall folk who assembled at East Ferry Road yesterday, to the number of about 500, evidently took this view of the matter, for they laughed heartily and rejoiced in feeling ultra superior. The fact that Millwall won by only 9-0 is merely a tribute to their quality of mercy. As a matter of fact, the Germans were bitter in the consciousness that Chatham and Sheppey should have tried for so many goals. With this objection I do not hold, for football, even if this sort of football should be played seriously. Where I do sympathise with the Germans is in the refusal of Chatham to lend them a man. They must have gone down to 10 men. The consequence of this action was that Germany had on Wednesday to take the field with a lame man. What's all this? Yo, the Englishman, having been kicked by Arthur, ruled in the knee on Tuesday. That must have been the name of the person who got injured. Don't know. 9-0 win for the Lions. They've got a wonderful offhand style. The Germans, who were clad in red, white and black stripes, went through the mill cheerfully enough. They took their beating with smiles, probably honoured to be on the same pitch. Millwall indulged the foolery of the foreigner in the sublimest way. 9 goals, but this is wonderful stuff. They should bring back this kind of sports reportage, shouldn't they? It was not a particularly exhilarating show, says the writer, but I suppose it served its purpose. It would, of course, be absurd to criticise the Millwall team on this display. How can you criticise them? They put 9 past their opponents. Carter in goal had yet next to nothing to do. And the only notable feature of the play was in the clean centering of Whelan from the outside. Mackenzie was, of course, in his element, and we can afford to pardon him here. Lieutenant Simpson smiled grimly as he refereed throughout. Wonderful stuff. There we go, dear listeners. First ever foreign opponent I found. Are Canadians foreign? They're not really foreign, are they? I don't believe them to be foreign. I believe them to be brothers in our blood. But we played the Canadian 11 in 1891. That was a 1-1 draw. Played at Millwall in dull weather, says this newspaper report here, before 3,000 spectators. The score at half-time was Canadians 1 goal, Millwall nothing. Following the restart, Canadians pressed strongly and the ball was constantly in the Millwall territory. Very occasionally Millwall attacked, but nothing further was scored until a late corner when it was headed home by McCulloch, making a 1-1 draw. Millwall 1, Millwall Athletic 1, the Canadian 11 1. There we are, dear listeners. That's my little pick and choose of all the foreign opponents we've had in front. It isn't exhaustive. I'm not sure some of the Gemini information is 100% bang on, but anyway, there we are. Hopefully it made an entertaining listen on this hot, sunny morning on Thursday. I'm going to go down the Den on Saturday. I haven't been since May, have I? Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing some of the new boys. Let's hope for a decent performance, and certainly for the Caribou Cup the week after, let's hope for a win. Until the next edition, listeners, I want to say thank you for listening to this little run through the ideas and concepts of foreign-friendly opposition. Hope you enjoyed it. My name is Nick Hart. You're listening to Achtung Millwall, number 1 Millwall podcast. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
When I was a little boy, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be Arsenal? Will I be Spurs? Here's what she said to me. No one likes us. We don't care. We are Millwall, Super Millwall. We are Millwall from the dead. We are Millwall from the dead. It's Saturday. It's cold blue lane, we've all come down to cheer. We've had our jellied eels, we've had our glass of beer. All the time, rain or shine, our families will bring. And as the Lions run on the pitch, everyone will sing. No one likes us, we don't care.
Who do you want to watch?